Good evening to all. We at Baywise welcome you all to our speaker session, which is focusing on the topic the skills required for entrepreneurship. Our esteemed speaker for today's session is Mr. Aditya Arora. He is the CEO of FAD Network Private Limited. He has been recognized as a successful young entrepreneur and achiever at various national and international platforms. He has won many prestigious awards for his work. Some of them include the Parliamentary Award, Duke of Edinburgh International Award, and Microsoft Top 15 Changemaker. We are also very proud to tell you that he was the youngest nominee for Padma Shri Award 2020. We welcome you, sir, and are very excited to have your insights on the topic of entrepreneurship and would love to know about your journey as well. Thank you, sir. We request you to start with the speaker session.
Thank you so much, first of all, to Team Baywise for having me here. And of course, it's even great to see that students from your own college are doing such a nice initiative of spreading knowledge and bringing awareness to people. So thank you so much, Sakshi, Harivansh, and the entire team involved at Baywise for putting this up together. And so I'll make the session a bit short and a bit crisp as well since we started a bit delayed. So my journey, as Sakshi was introducing, it's been a very happening one in the past 3 4 years of my journey. If I talk about, there has been a lot of back and forth which has happened, which has helped me not just to sort of gain impetus as an entrepreneur, but also to realize and carry forward my dream, my passion, and it has given me a sense of purpose in life. So that's what we of course always strive for, to find the silver lining, to find the why of our life, and to find something that we are passionate about. So yeah, but pretty much. If I have to summarize my journey, I'll probably just take a minute or two to recapitulate everything that has happened till now. So in fact, I was very determined to go to college and to do an MBA, and that's when I started preparing for this college called Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies. So the moment I entered that college, of course, I was very determined that I would get a placement package from here, because of course the placements at CBS are very good in terms of the overall batch which is getting placed, and also I would get a very good job from here, because the average package in 2015 was somewhere around 6.5 lakhs. But as I entered in college, so the college was called Business Studies, but to my surprise, to the fact, I saw that a lot of people were not interested towards business. I would say good about 98 99% of people were very interested towards either placements or MBA or conventional career options, right? But not mainly towards this side of the world, which is called entrepreneurship, right? And that's where I thought that probably I would want to do something different, something unique. If it works out, maybe I'll go ahead and do that post my college as well. If it does not work out, probably I'll be one of them, which is who's sitting for cat, who's sitting for placements, right? So I did end up sort of taking an internship from this company called FAD, which came to hire interns from CBS, and I started working with them. To be very honest, the payout wasn't very good, but the kind of experience that I was getting, it was amazing, right? Because I was learning a lot alongside just spending time out there and traveling. So I just went there. I interviewed people, and my job at FAD was to interview people, host events, have networking amongst investors, startups, also bridging the gap, basically, a sort of a mediator. And that's what I did for 2 years. I explored myself. I became a public person. I started interacting with a lot of new people who I was meeting for the first time. I was hosting events for FAD. So by the end of the year in college, when I was sitting for placements, I got an offer from FARD as well. It was a kind of a pre-placement offer, um, wherein, of course, my summer internship, then to my part-time stint at FARD alongside college, and then it became a full-time role opportunity. So that is, of course, one thing that had happened, but it did not happen as a sheer transformation, right? It happened because there was a lot of back and forth that I was involved with, a lot of social campaigns of mine, which I was actively working on, which is called Education Yatra, for which I eventually ended up receiving the plethora of awards that Sakshi gave the introduction about. And about that, I was very determined. I found the passion of my life. I found the why of my life, and I found that there is something which is my clarion calling, something which attracts me more than attracts what attracts me as an MBA or a placement career option. So I ended up doing that, working with FAD, and since then it's been a, as you say, life 2.0, a new side of the story altogether, where whatever I was doing side by side college, I was now doing it full time. I was, of course, working full time with people at office, managing people, executing people. Since you are the CEO of the company, your primarily job is to interact with people and execute certain projects, assignments, and a lot of other deals that we were executing. So that's been a rough journey, and everything that has followed, every validation or every award, every recognition that has followed in this journey has been just basis that one vision and that one passion that I want to do this, right? I want to do something different. In the very first internship, I did not know answer to any of the question that was asked on to me. I did not know what startups are, but I was willing to learn just so that I can be maybe a bit different, carve out my own destiny a bit differently. So that is the journey broadly that I've been at FAD, and it has taught me a hell lot of things, right? Right from being that age is always just a number, but you should always carry on. Uh, to secondly being that there would be a lot of people who would be saying a lot of stuff which may be good to you. They may not be saying with a bad impression or with a bad motive in their mind, but what you excel on, what you will actually end up making a career on, the answer of that you know the best. There's no one else who can come and tell you that. I guess you should own your destiny in that pace and decide for yourself that this is something that I actually want to do. And so, of course, with FAD, that's where my clarion call came. But in college, I took a big risk of not going for a good company internship, not going for a good package, not going for a good not going for a good corporate. So that's the uh, broader journey, if I have to sum it in a nutshell. But yes, struggles of course are there. That's what entrepreneurship is, right? One aspect of it is the big dreams, the vision, the capabilities, the execution. The second aspect, the second most critical aspect of this side of entrepreneurship is that it's never too easy, right? It's full of struggles. It's full of self-doubt, complexity, personal struggles around you, and everything. But if you walk that path, if you actually end up live those struggles successfully, if you pass that phase in life, that's what brings you one step closer towards achieving your passion. So that is what an entrepreneurial mindset is. In fact, just before the session I was speaking on entrepreneurial mindset, and this is what the mindset of, I believe this is what the mindset of our young people should be, wherein they are not very much biased towards certain career lines. They are very much open to explore that, and they're always willing to learn. Once you learn, definitely the L would drop and you would start earning as well. But you can't start earning from day one if you plan on dreaming big, right? If you plan on learning throughout the way. So that is in a nutshell a journey about FAD and about FAD and myself. And just to give you a blurb, it's not that I did not explore as well. It's not that I just took risk with a company and just went away. It just went in my favor. It's not that like that. I did a plethora of other things, right, from my social campaigns to even stand-up comedy, um, to make both ends meet, to make my campaign success, to make my campaign sustainable in the first place. So Of course, I tried out a variety of things which were beyond conventional, which were maybe not what 99% of the society follows. But I was very happy to be the rest 1%, even if I'm, let's say, not successful. I made up my mind that time at the taking of the decision that even if I'm not successful, I'll probably take the ownership of it. I'll not feel remorse. But if I become successful at it and I'm not doing that, I would be remorseful for the entire life that is ahead of me. And this is something that I actually don't want, right? So the crux of the matter, the crux of the story is that whatever you do in life, always be willing to explore. Life is a crazy enough place. Crazy things can happen as long as you are willing to be crazy to explore that. So that's my journey. And any question, any comments, any feedbacks from till now, I'll be more than happy to take that. Anything you want to ask before we move on to the next segment, which is the skills of an entrepreneur? Any questions from here? Sure. So I guess there are no more questions, so probably we'll take them later on. So I'll probably move on to the next set of the story, which is the skills of an entrepreneur. Now, of course, you've heard a bit of my story. You've realized that, of course, entrepreneurs are crazy heads, right? One crazy head like me, there are so many other crazy heads who want to change the world, right? Even I would say Mahatma Gandhi was an entrepreneur in himself because he led the way, he showed the way, right? And he was crazy enough to have a vision in the world. So that's where the source of entrepreneurship, source of inspiration lies. It's not always about the $1 million coming in. It's always about the people around you, the people who are doing their own bit in changing the world for better, of course. And that's what the crazy world of entrepreneurship is. Every company that you see nowadays is there with a vision, with a purpose. Every company that has become big. Um, so when Paytm started with a vision to change the financial landscape of this country. Oyo started to change the living standard of this country. Uh, you take Tesla started to drive that innovation. In fact, Elon Musk has a different theory altogether with every company that he launches because he eventually wants to have a life on Mars. But every person, every entrepreneur that you see has a vision in life. Well, Ratan Tata has a vision that, of course, entrepreneurship is not just about profits. It's also about serving the society, right? It's also about giving a hand to the society and telling it that, of course, you are not alone, and we businesses are here to help you. We take so much from you every day, and now it's our turn to give you back. So that's what entrepreneurship that's what the skills of entrepreneurship is. By definition, if I talk about an entrepreneur, who's an entrepreneur? Anyone who would like to come up and say, I want this to be an interactive session. So anyone who wants up to come and say, who is an entrepreneur? Anyone who would, you can even write in the chat box as well if you're feeling a bit shy coming ahead. Or you can unmute yourself and ask, who is an entrepreneur according to you? I'm not looking for the Webster definition. A very basic definition would work.
I would say somebody who is willing to take the risk of starting a business or any other organization.
Absolutely. That's one very good way to look at it. Of course, the most standard way to look at it. Um, so, so yeah, we have one perspective, which is, of course, starting up any new business or organization. Apart from that, who's an entrepreneur? From a very human side of you as well, who's an entrepreneur? One who can solve society's problem. Okay, that is something, of course, that I said as well. Anything extra you would like to add? Anything out of the box? Do you think who's an entrepreneur? An analogy, any quote, or anything you might have come across? But who, which
So I
differentiates?
think,
Yeah, yeah. Please go on.
so on a very basic level, I think entrepreneur is a person who adds value to that venture, which means that he adds value in the sense that that is something which is distinctive to that person and can't be done by any other common man.
Got it. Got it. Sakshi, that's one very interesting way. But again, in your definition, what comes out as that entrepreneurs are maybe not common man. Entrepreneurship entrepreneurs are maybe superhumans, which I agree to an extent, but on a definition level, there is some bit of more clarity we can have on that definition. Anyone who wants to add? Oh, okay, so I'll probably now take it.
I
I,
feel,
yeah.
yeah, an entrepreneur is a person. I feel like we all have some ideas, but entrepreneur is a person who drives with that idea, because not everyone is ready to take the risk, but one who is ready to take the risk with a vision, that is an entrepreneur.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very coherent definition. Thanks, Jyoti, for the definition. So we have so many perspectives. Every perspective is right. There is no wrong answer in any of your suggestions. So entrepreneur, by analogy, if I have to say, right, if I have to combine all of your perspective into one, consider someone who's being pushed out on the roof, right? Like you go on the rooftop, it's very scary, but some you are like pushed out of the roof. Okay, you are going down, and then with the wings down, with your head tilting downwards, with the force of gravity acting upon you, you develop wings, and then you start growing upwards. Sounds very fancy, very very fancy. That you develop wings and you start flying upwards. Then you are not going down. But in this fancy definition, again, in this fancy analogy, there are a couple of very, very coherent points. So, entrepreneur is someone, of course, who's been pushed out of the roof. So, an entrepreneur faces difficulties, right? It faces something which is life threatening, sometimes life threatening as well, right? Um, Secondly, an entrepreneur um, develops wings. So wings here are nothing but a source of positivity, right? That in a negative situation, you're trying to act positive. So, of course, now you're developing wings. Once they develop that positivity, they start having those wings. Don't you think he or she, the entrepreneur or the person who's coming down, would ever worry about hitting the rock bottom? No, right? Because they have wings now. Even if they hit the bottom, they would have a landing. They would not have a crash landing like was before the wings, but they would have a very soft landing because they have wings. They can easily land down. So, by this analogy, it says that entrepreneur is someone who's willing to take the risk, who has positivity amongst a negative situations, and who never worries about failing, who can always fail, but then of course he or she never looks at that failure as one. They always look at it as an opportunity. Though that is an entrepreneur from a very philosophical standpoint, but from a very calculated and crisp standpoint, if I have to talk about, an entrepreneur is someone who takes calculated risk in a very riskier situation and reaps the reward for it. So the key definition is that entrepreneur is someone who takes calculated risk. So it's not that you're taking risk beyond means and beyond systems. You're taking calculated risk to reap out a certain specific of reward. So it's a very calculated decision that you take. That is an entrepreneur. That's the first skill that an entrepreneur should have. They should assess what a calculated risk is. Okay. So entrepreneurship though is risk taking. That's what the myth is. That businesses are very risky. But risk is there in every situation. Okay. Not just entrepreneurship. If let's say you're working in corporates and the company shuts down, right? Then it's a very risky situation. You may lose your job as well. Secondly, if let's say even if the company does not shut down, the company merges into another company, and the new management that comes in does not like you as a person, you are eventually being laid off the company. That's another risk. So if I start talking about the risk, even corporates are not successful. MBAs, if I talk about the structure of MBAs, the kind of ticket sizes you have to spend for an MBA versus getting a job, and especially right now in the pandemic situation we are in, you all know better than me than that how infrequent the situation is. So of course, MBAs does not guarantee you a job as well. Okay, so nothing in this whole spectrum of life is very risk proof. Okay, so that is what even IS, let's consider the role of IS. Even IS was considered very risk proof, stable, high respecting job. But now you see IS transfers happening every second day. There's we have all heard of Ashok Khemkar, right? So within 3-4 months, he's had almost 17 transfers. So many of these cases, and I have some of my friends who are IAS too, and they keep telling me that the profession has gone a bit downhill. So nothing in this whole career line is safe. Uh, I don't mean to sort of instill a risk mentality in you, but I just want you to sort of be open-minded and be very, very practical in your life decisions. So take calculated risk, calculated opportunity, explore as the second most aspect uh, of the skill of an entrepreneur is the exploration. Explore yourself beyond just entrepreneurship. That's what helps you to gain creativity. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm right now an investor more than an entrepreneur. I fund companies. I'm an angel investor. I turn around struggling companies. But so of course since I studied finance from CBS, the knowledge of that of course helped whatever I could gain from being in classes, although I never was. But the second aspect of it is that I did social work, I did stand-up comedy, which helped me to gain those people skills through which I'm talking with you right now. Trying to connect with you right now, and through which I try to connect with the founders as well, the founders that I invest money in. So other sort of skills also make you an entrepreneur, right? So entrepreneurship is not just on making charts, making candlesticks, making waterfalls, making carry charges. Not just about that. It's way beyond that. It's beyond understanding people. And of course, through my journey, exploring into social work and stand-up comedy helped me to gain those critical people skills, which help me even today. So we've heard two aspects. One is calculating risk. Second, we've talked about exploration. Third is always talking about creativity, right? And entrepreneurs are creative people. We all know that, right? Because there was one perspective that normal people, they can't think of that solution, but an entrepreneur does, which is something out of the box, right? So how do you develop creativity? How do you develop a sense of thinking through things? This is all a purpose, in my opinion. How I did that is facing various sort of situations in life, and the earlier you do that, the better it is. Why we call a elder person more experienced than you, right? An elder person maybe even may let's say have just 2 years of work experience, right? He or she may have been unemployed throughout his or her life, but they have 2 years of work experience. You have, let's say, 7 years of work experience, but still, why do people say elder people are more experienced? Is this just because of this age? No, it's because of the function of age. You are 32 versus 22. At 32 you would have experienced more different kind of life challenging situations, in which you would have to take a decision very quickly, in which there would have been a dilemma, there would have been an impulse, but you would have tried to control that. And not only have you taken those decisions, you've also seen the consequences of those decisions. So of course, the earlier you try to explore, you give yourself a better probability of seeing those different kinds of situations around, and that's where you start making progress. So in entrepreneurship, of course, the third aspect, creativity only comes when you know 10 other different ways of doing that, right? And creativity does not come in a nutshell, right? There's no course on creativity which can actually help you explain what creativity is. By definition, you would know creativity, but are you a creative person at the end of that course? I'm not sure. No course can teach you that. Even no course can teach you entrepreneurship. I'm here telling my experience, sharing my musings as an entrepreneur, but no entrepreneur can teach you what entrepreneurship is, right? The best form of entrepreneurship is to actually experience it. So of course, go ahead and gather those skills for yourself. Now, so we've come halfway mark. So we've come at skills, we've come at exploration, we've come at creativity. Then, of course, at the first place, we came at calculated risk. Any questions till now? Anything, any feedback, suggestion, anything you want to add or share? Guys, if there's anything, do let me know, because an interaction is the best form of any workshop that can happen. Yeah. So any questions? So probably not right now, I guess. We'll possibly take that towards the end of the session. Absolutely. Sure. So we've come halfway. The next three steps of the skills of an entrepreneur, if I talk about. The fourth most important and the most underrated skill of entrepreneurs is called time management, right? Entrepreneurs are great time managers. They look up for everything. It's not that they are the first myth on entrepreneurship is that a lot of people think that if you're doing your own job, if you are having your own startup, you are here to chill, right? You can chill anytime you want. You are your own boss. You can relax anytime. But I guess it's the opposite. It's the opposite, right? In entrepreneurship, you are your own boss, which is correct. But then you're not managing people just within a company. You're managing the whole world out there. In a corporate where you would be managing, let's say, a certain specific area of work, you are finance or taxation or audit, right? But in entrepreneurship, typically you're not just managing one area, you are managing the entire company, all the functions, all the people. You are not only responsible for the error in your balance sheets, but you're also responsible for what goes out as misinformation to the public about your company. So uh, time management, of course, you have to do. And entrepreneurship is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? So you have to keep running that marathon in the longer run. So for that, you have to have that work life balance too sometimes. And that's where you go ahead, and that's where you create something of value. If you are able to manage time, you are able to do so many things. And one classic example from my day as well, if I have to share my example, I fund companies. Of course, I'm an angel investor. I manage a whole bunch of angel investors, about 400 of them. And then also taking active seminars, workshops, webinars, podcasts, a lot of these digital form of communication in colleges, in universities. I teach as well at some of the universities you might have heard of, called I'm Bangalore National University of Singapore. So there as well, managing the entire day, then managing a personal life, which is mostly around reading books, meditation, exercising. So a whole bunch of things that I manage. And of course, every day is super critical. Every day is super important, and you can't procrastinate. So that is entrepreneurship. The word entrepreneurship does not relate with the word procrastination. The word entrepreneurship always relates with the word time management. So that is one thing. So we have a question. I'll probably take that question. It's a good question. So Arya is asking difference between an entrepreneur and an influencer. Very pertinent question, especially to the times of today. Entrepreneurs and influencers. Difference. The first difference on a humorous side is there are two different categories on Instagram for taking a page. So you can be an entrepreneur and an influencer. But on a serious note, entrepreneurs and influencers are very different. I'll tell you why. Influencers may not be developing something of value, and that's my perspective. Arya, feel free to share if you have something more. Influencers, entrepreneurs have their own vision around things. Okay, they are not promoting others' vision. They are primarily focused on promoting their own vision through other people, right? Through influencers. So let's say I have a fitness product. I am promoting my own product through influencers. I have Milind Soman, I have Priyanka Chopra, I have Tiger Shroff, I have many influencers. So they are promoting my product. My vision is just one, okay, to promote my fitness product. Influencers' vision is never one, right? Most of the influencers, especially social media influencing, which I talk about, they may not have one vision. They may be endorsing other people's vision, which may not be their own themselves in the first place. So that is the basic level difference between entrepreneurship and influencer. They are mutually related terms as well, because the purpose of entrepreneurship is to influence people as well, to create something of value. But influencer is never driven towards a motive, towards a it's driven towards a motive, but it's never structured in the form of a business. So that's the basic difference, I feel. I hope that answers your question, Arya. Sure. So
But sir, if you look at a different, with a different point of view, we can say entrepreneurs are influencers in some way.
absolutely, that's what I said. Entrepreneurs are influencers in some way. Uh, Influencers are entrepreneurs. That's not always a must, right? Because influencing, you don't always need like a proper business. You don't need to be a proprietor for something. But entrepreneurs are influencers. Like you would call Ritesh Agarwal as an entrepreneur influencer, right? Um, but you would not, let's say, call any influencer. You would not call Tiger Shroff right now as an entrepreneur, right? He's an influencer, of course. He's a Bollywood celebrity, he's an influencer, but not an entrepreneur. That's the basic difference that I see. Uh, Thanks, Arya, for giving the confirmation. But it's a very interesting question. Never answered that before in any of the session. So next set of points that I was talking to you about, the fourth point which we spoke on was time management. So the fifth point now, the next point we call is something called passion, right? That's the most important point for any of the entrepreneur, right? If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you can never be a successful entrepreneur, because you will always be then chasing money, chasing profits, chasing stability, chasing a good financial health, chasing cash, chasing everything, right? But you will not be chasing something that you actually want to chase on, and which is called a larger purpose, a sense, a why of life, right? So that's where you should know what your passion is. You should know what your why of life is. In fact, I'd love to share a bit of an excerpt from my TEDx speech as well, which is called Solve Why for X, right? In which I say that in mathematics, we are always given to form the value of X, right? We've always said that solve X. But in life, actually, if we solve Y, we actually can solve other different sort of things around our life. So I typically call Y as our Y of life, the WHY, and then I called X as my dreams and C, which is a constant. And in any mathematics equation, you would find a C, which is a constant, which is a independent variable. But of course, the main value, the LHS, is dependent on that, on that independent variable. So Y is what I call my Y of life, WHY, and X is what I call my dreams, and C is what I call reality, which is a stress, tension, depression, anxiety, trauma. All these things are very constant while we are growing up. Self-doubt, complexity, fear of competition, other bunch of host of things. So of course, once you know the value of your why, the stress, the depression, everything. Once you know what the value of dependent variable, right? The independent variables can automatically become dependent. Let's say in LHS, you get the value of pi, right? Then you can automatically plug in the numbers and get to the one particular value of one particular value of X, right? So that is what we are passionate about. We should always be thinking of what that why is, what that why of life is, what is something that I want to do, what is something that I would not love doing, but I would do what I love, right? So you can be in love with your job, but it may not be the job that you love. So you should always try and figure out that what can be something that I can actually love. So that is what drives passion. And once the passion is there, other things like money, other things like profits, other things like social recognition, other things like validation, everything becomes secondary once you're doing something you're passionate, because everything is a byproduct of doing things, right? Even money is a byproduct of doing things, right? We say to our entrepreneurs, we are not here funding you. We are not the money guys. We are the checklist guys. We are checklist. We prepared a checklist that if you tick all these boxes, our money is just a final step of it, which is a dependent variable dependent upon how many boxes you tick. So that is what your fifth goal, which is called passion. Okay. And sixth most important is, of course, as a entrepreneur, is called vision. So vision, of course, vision not just as a long-term vision. It's not like a where do you see yourself 5 years from now type of vision. It's a vision with which you live every day. right? Vision is always equated in the longer term, but I believe there can always be a short term vision. There can always be a daily vision. I am waking up today. I want to do all my tasks by the end of the day, and I want to do that with full sincerity, full commitment, full accuracy. That's what helps me to become a good entrepreneur or become a good person in life. So that is something, of course, you should always have a vision. Even if you are helping people, even if you are impacting people in the smallest of sense, I believe that's a very good vision to have. Entrepreneurs are not just profit making machines, right? As I said, they are someone who are willing to create a value for the betterment of the society. So always create that value, always have that vision to create something better for the society. So that's what the six skills, the six uh, points of an entrepreneurship was. I'll quickly recapitulate once, and then we can have all of your questions in the remaining 5 7 about 10 minutes that we have for the session. And then of course we can head off and we can connect later as well. I'll drop my social media handles and you can connect with me there as well, ask your questions, give your feedback. So six skills we learned today. Of course, one was called your calculated risk. Your second was called passion. Okay. Your third was called the vision, or the larger vision, the larger purpose in life. The fourth was called time management. Even I'm forgetting, remembering all the six now. So fourth was called time management, right? Um, the second was called, the fifth was called exploration. And what was the sixth one? I'm very forgetful of things sometimes. What was the sixth one? Anyone who gets the sixth one gets the first institutional funding from me.
But it was vision.
Vision, I repeated. I'm forgetting the sixth one.
Passion.
Vision. Well, I said passion as well. Vision, passion,
Creativity.
uh, creativity. Yes. Who said this? Creativity?
Yeah,
Jyoti.
Rakshita.
Acha, Rakshita. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Rakshita. So Rakshita was it? So yeah, Rakshita. Thanks for the sixth one. Creativity. The least, the last, but not the least important, right? So creativity. So six, of course, we've spoken about. And any questions, any feedback from you now, I'm more than happy to take that. The floor is open for your comments. Guys, please feel free to ask. That's another trait of an entrepreneur. They are always asking questions. Anything about my journey or anything? Yeah, there's a question. Shruti has this question, sir. Considering pandemic has taken a hit and funding has dried up, there has been a wave of anxiety among young entrepreneurs. How should they cope up with this? Very interesting question, Shruti. And first of all, in fact, I forgot to say that I hope all of you are keeping safe as well, and do take adequate care. Question is around instability. So instability is Shruti there not just for young entrepreneurs but for everyone. So it's a level playing field where not just young people but everyone is affected in some of the ways. So um, and things are getting better as well. It's not that lockdown is just going shittier and shittier. Things have started to open up. People are moving out. Some in some places people have even forgot that there was a lockdown. Um, so things have opened up now, and things are going to get better only from this. And with now summers also expected to kick in, I guess the virus biologically as well would take a hit as well on the lower side. So of course things would open up. As young entrepreneurs, you should see this time as an opportunity, to be very honest. And that's what I'm also seeing as one. Now, so much of your traveling time is saved. Most of us are young adults, right? So our college time or our job time is saved. We are not traveling. We are not going out for a cup of coffee. We are at our homes in our own comfort, and probably not even spending a lot of time on wearing formals. There's a lot of you're there in your casuals, in your comfort zone, at your own place, at your own home. So utilize this time to explore other things, right? Even you've not done any social work, try and finding something to do, something good for the society online. You haven't read a book, try and go out and read a book. Sometimes you learn a lot from a book as well. So many good books out there. You haven't like done your music, try and unwind a bit. Utilize this time to focus on good things, to focus on things you haven't explored. Do your bit of research around sectors, around other things. Also take this time to unwind a bit as well. Lockdown is mentally taxing, not just for you, but for everyone, of course. But utilize this time to create an environment in which you can enjoy. You can try and listen to podcasts, be a singer, anything, right? So that's where you become a good entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship is not just always about this, always saying about your idea or vision. It's about the human side of the story as well. Someone who is a good human would always be regarded uh, before being an entrepreneur first, right? So always connect with the human yourself. That's utilize your time. And once this opens up, of course, you are at a level playing field where you can launch your businesses and everything would be back to normal. Hope that answers your question, Shruti. Let me know if there's anything you want to ask. Hitesh has a next set of questions. Please suggest some good books. So good books again is a very subjective thing. Okay. So but I primarily like bestsellers, of course, the bestsellers that are out there. List, of course, you can see. I read fiction as well most of the time because or something which is non-fiction. I keep saying that in a lot in my sessions, so sometimes gets mentally taxing, a lot of motivation stuff and everything. So I'm currently reading Pride and Prejudice again, by Jane Austen, and it's a good book. Not nothing related to entrepreneurship, but gives you so much to learn about different aspects, and I learn my own lessons from that book. Then, of course, on the entrepreneurship side, there is 0 to 1. There is under $1 startup. There is the biographies of so many. There is biographies of so many entrepreneurs. Elon Musk is there. We have Satya Nadella's hit a refresh. We have Azim Premji's book. So many book of we have Bill Gates book. So many books if I talk about on the uh, on the non-fiction side of it. And the fiction, of course, I before this I read All the Light We Cannot See in the World, which is by Anthony Doerr. Another very interesting book, which won the Pulitzer Prize in I guess 2015 or 2016. Yeah, won the Pulitzer Prize. So yeah, these are some of the books that is currently on my list, and I read all the top 10, top 15 books on Goodreads. So all the highest rated books on Goodreads, I read that as well. Hope that hope that answers your question. Uh, Thanks, Hitesh. Any other questions? What I'll also do now is I'll drop my handle so you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram and ask your questions or give any feedback for me to improve as well. And yeah, more than happy to do that. So, any questions? Anything we have before we wind up the session today?
So you discussed so much about entrepreneurship, but there's this one thing that it's a mad race out there in in fields of entrepreneurship as well. Like everybody is trying something new, everybody is trying to get the problem solved. But so how do one stand out in a crowd where everybody is trying to stand out?
Sure, absolutely. That's a very relevant question. So, Khushi, the point is that everyone out there is trying to imitate anyone because there is a dearth of anything which is unique, right? Any idea that you think about that way, somewhere or the other, that person is doing it. Not because you were slow in thinking, it may be because they were more fast, or maybe sometimes because that they are very much experienced than you, they were born before that. So somewhere on the other someone is doing, but you should always realize one thing, that it's never about ideas, right? Ideas are like hotcakes, everyone has them, right? But it's all about the execution of the idea. So for example, if I talk about Facebook was never the first social media platform out there. In fact, there were a bunch of social media platforms before Facebook. Facebook started out as a dating matching sort of service in the dorm room of Harvard, right? We've all seen the social network as well. That's how it started. Face Mash was the first app through which they were connecting people. And that's how it grew to Facebook. So with Facebook, other companies were there, but all died down just because Facebook did not do something different. But Facebook did that very same thing differently, right? That's what entrepreneurship is. You're not doing something different. You're not superhumans. That's why I said that I don't believe entrepreneurs are superhumans. They're normal, ordinary people. They just do things differently. They see things differently. Um, Google. If I talk about Uber, Uber was never the first taxi in the world, right? There's so many companies before Uber which were in taxis, but Uber was the first company which offered a location-based pickup taxi service, and that's the add-on with what made Uber first. But did that stop Ola from becoming a very big name? No. Ola also came in with a similar model, similar cap, similar pricing is of course different depending on geography to geography, but they came out with a model and they captured Indian markets. They are right now in London as well. They are right now in US as well. So that's what makes them different, wherein they do some things differently. And I can go. Google again was never the first search engine. Um, so I can go on explaining those examples, but always try and see how I can do something differently, how I can add my own set of value over this, and that's what makes you different. Not just the idea of it makes you different. Similarly with Paytm as well. So many examples, but they're all examples of doing some things differently, not thinking of a very unique idea, just unique to you. I hope that answers your question, Koshi, to an extent.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It was very insightful.
Thanks, Koshi. Um, so probably now we'll take questions. We can take questions offline as well. You already dropped my credentials and you can connect. And thank you so much, Sakshi, for inviting me to this session, to Harivansh as well, to the entire team, in fact, at Baywise for putting this together. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, sir. We were extremely grateful to have your valuable insights on this topic. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Wish you guys the best. Thank you.